Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Let's have a look at the daily challenge problem. Problem 985, sum of even numbers after queries. So in this video, we're going to share a method or solution based on linear traversal and update. So first, I'll read through the statement of the problem to understand or digest the task. And then we do a simple analysis and walk through. And finally, we share the code. So first, let's look at the statement. So we are given an integer array nums and an array queries where the query contains a value and an index. So for each query, first we're going to increment the corresponding number according to the index by the query value, and then print the sum of the even numbers in the nums array. So we are required to return an integer array called answer, where answer I is the answer to the ith query. So here are two examples. So example 2 is sort of special. So let's look at example 1. So let's analyze the first output, 8. So the first query is 1, 0. So the index is 0 and the value is 1. So we increment the first one by 1. So we get 2, right? So we get 2, 2, 3, 4. So for after this query, the sum of the even numbers are 2 plus 2 plus 4. That is 8. So that's 8 here. So you can try to interpret the other three outputs after the queries. So with that said, let's look at the constraints or additional assumptions for this problem. First, the array nums is bounded above by 10 to the power 4 in length. It's not empty. So the second one is on the range of the elements in nums, and the third one is on the query length, which is also bounded above by 10 to the power 4. And the fourth one is the value range in the query, and the last one is the index range. So for the index range, it must be greater than or equal to 0, starting from 0 and ending at the length of nums minus 1. So this last one is actually an consistency assumption. So with that said, we are ready to look at the method and the analysis. So here, actually, the solution is just for a linear, we just need a linear traversal. So in between, we can do some updates. So the idea is the following. First, we get the sum of the even numbers in the original nums list, and let's call it previous. And then we iterate the queries with the value and the index, and then we do the following operations when we visit each query. First, we're going to save the current number and index. Let's call it temp. And then we're going to update the nums index by incrementing its value by the value val. And then we're going to check if now the nums at index is even. So if even, so we increment the previous by this number at the index. And then we check if temp is even. So if it's even, so we are going to decrement the previous by this temp, because we cannot count twice. And then after the two checks and updates, so we append the current previous state to the result. So that's the whole procedure. So actually it's very straightforward and simple. So here let's look at a walkthrough for example 1. So the example 1, so the nums is 1, 2, 3, 4, and the query is given here. So at the very beginning, so we initialize a result variable. It's empty list, and then the previous will have a state 2 plus 4. That is I guess 2 plus 4 is 6. And then when we look at the first index, so it's corresponding to query first query. So the value is 1 and the index is 0. So originally the num 0 is 1. Let's call it temp. And then after we increment this value by 1, so we get 2, 2, 3, 4. And then because num 0 now is 2, so the previous is incremented by 2, we get 8. And the temp is 1. It's an odd. So the sum of even numbers is incremented by this value 2. So we get 8. So we are going to append 8 to the result. So this is the result state. And then we continue. So for example, when we look at index 1, so the value is -3 and the index is 1. So originally the number at index 1 is 2. So we call it temp. And then after this update, so in other words, adding -3 to 2, we get -1. So we get 2, -1, 3, and 4. So this is the state for nums array. Then because nums1 is not even, so previous is still 8. However, the update eliminates an even number, that is 2, because temp is 2. So we are going to decrement this previous by the temp, that is 8 minus 2. We have 6 now. So we append 6 to the result, we get 8, 6. So similarly, we can examine the third query and the fourth query. So afterwards, the last state or the final state of the result is 8, 6, 2, 4. That's the return for example 1. So with that said, so we are ready to look at the code. The code actually is very routine and short, but let's write in a more, in some sense, more detailed way. So first, I'm going to initialize a result variable. So originally empty. So we're going to return the final state of this variable. And then we're going to compute the previous. So in other words, the sum of the even numbers in the nums array. So here we can use the sum. We can use a comprehension. So in an iterative format. So for item in nums, if item is even. So this is the preparation. So next we're going to do the iteration. So for value and index in queries. Then we can first track the information nums idx. Let's save it for later check. And then we're going to update this value, this entry at index idx by this value. And then we're going to check if nums idx is even or not. If it's even, so we are going to increment the previous by this number idx. So otherwise we do nothing, right? So then we should check if we counted twice, right? So if temp is even, then we're going to do a decrement by this temp. So after these two checks, so we can actually append the current previous state to the result. This previous state is the current sum of even numbers in the current state of nums after the current query. So with that done, so we are ready to do the return. So we just need to return the result state. So let's first do a check. Yeah, it passes the first example, I guess. So now let's do a generic check directly. Yeah, it passes all the generic cases. So I guess for this problem, the logic is actually very straightforward and the routine. So the main thing here is that we just need to do a linear traversal, and in between we update the state of the variable prev. So that's all about it for this solution. That's also about it for this video. Thank you very much.